allegiance? That's wonderful. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Janice, would you like to take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Smith.
Present.
Alderman Villier. Present. Alderman Hill.
Present.
Alderman Keene.
Present.
Alderman Lancaster.
Present.
Alderman Swatosh.
Present.
And Alderman Wilson.
Present.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a quorum.
All right, fantastic. All right, this is the agenda.
Sadly, it was a little bumpy this week.
Yeah, see, we don't have numbers anymore, so we'll just have to wing it.
So, of course, this was the first week of the new agenda management, and training is one thing, but real life, very different. So you'll see that the cover sheets showed up as agenda items, so that's a little unexpected. They do identify as a cover sheet on the agenda, so they can be safely skipped over. The item is right underneath of those. Number 10. Had the wrong report attached to it, so there's a copy of the correct report on your desk. The closed session for legal, the agenda program erroneously removed the reasoning being pursuant to RSMO section 610.021 number 1. And then somehow in the prior draft of a ballot question snuck in there, we changed the dates to April on the one that was on the November 25th meeting agenda. So the first read was correctly presented, but the one in this agenda package just has November back in there. We're not sure what happened there, but we provided copies of the correct ballot question with the date being April 8th and the due date to present to the county is December 31st. And then as far as added bills, there is one added bill this week for cybersecurity dues for insurance for 2025. We did receive the bill. Given current events, we definitely don't want to see that one lapse on January 1, so we presented that for consideration in today's invoices. And that, I believe, is it.
Okay, well, you or Janice, if we go down the wrong path, someone's gonna have to redirect us back to the correct path.
Okay.
And Mayor, like I said, I apologize for not getting my my reporting on time, but it is interesting because the report that was submitted was last year's report, and the report I resubmitted to you is this year's report. Take a look at what a year difference
It's a good comparison.
does. It's a pretty good comparison. So if you get a chance to look at that, it doesn't have to be now, but it's a pretty interesting comparison of what 12 months has brought to Willard. So.
Alright, so after saying all that, does anybody have any questions or inquiries about the consent agenda? If not, can we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier.
Yes.
Alderman Hill.
Yes.
Alderman Keene.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Swatosh.
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alright, next item is current outstanding invoices, draft and check paid invoices. Anything other than what you discussed already, Wes? Nothing? If there are no questions on that topic, can we get a motion?
I have a real quick question.
Go ahead.
The spare pump, $9,000, is it really a spare pump or we need it?
Spare pump?
For Wimpy's.
No, this one, yes, for Wimpy's.
So we only have one working pump at that lift station.
Okay.
They just worded it as spare pump on
Okay.
the bill, but yeah, there's only one working pump in that station currently.
Okay. That was,
That's right.
I think that was my only question, was just, we just don't have a $10,000 back there.
It is always good to have a few backups on the shelf.
It's a, yeah.
That being said.
Not a $10,000. That's the thing.
You'll be surprised.
Well, yes, I know, when it breaks, it
we like to
breaks,
have
yeah.
some on the shelf, especially with
No.
them getting lost on the boats sometimes.
Yep. No, I get it, but I just was like, it's at the end of the year, really? So.
That's a
okay.
fair point, yeah.
No one else has questions, I'll make a motion that we approve the expenditures.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villiers? Yes. Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swatosh?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson? Yes. Thank you.
All right, next, section of citizen input. If anybody would like to step forward and talk about anything or give us your input on anything, feel free. Okay, let's see, nobody will close that section. All right, the next subject we have is the oath of office.
That's Levi O'Neill.
For Levi O'Neill.
Levi O'Neill recently graduated from the Sheriff's Academy, and I was there at this ceremony, and they presented awards for this, that, and the other thing. And the highest award that they hand out is the honor graduate. And so I was delighted when they called out Levi O'Neill's name. So we got lucky with Levi O'Neill, top tier candidate. Would you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Levi O'Neill,
I, Levi O'Neill,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I possess the qualifications required
that I possess the qualifications required
for the position of police officer.
for the position of police officer.
I will support, obey, and defend
I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the constitutions and laws
Constitution and laws
of the state of Missouri,
of the state of Missouri,
and the ordinances and charter
and the ordinances and charter
of the city of Willard.
of the city of Willard.
I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as a police officer
as my office as a police officer
for the city of Willard, Missouri,
for the city of Willard, Missouri,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God,
so help me God.
on this 9th day of December 2024.
On this 9th day of December 2024.
Yay. Now, this is a young man that we hired 2/3 of the way through his academy. And so he's got a jump on the field training. And I see him out and on his own. We're not gonna turn him loose too soon, but a month and a half, so very proud of him. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Levi.
Thank you.
Next we have, Alice Akers and Anya here to present our, liability, property, and workers' comp insurance for 2025.
This is Mr. Jeff Conger. He's presented before.
Yeah. Good to see you guys again. Thanks for having me. That was neat to see. I've never seen that before. Very good. I'm Jeff Cronister. I represent Hollis Akers Arnie. We're the insurance and risk management firm that handles such things for the city. And so we met on Friday, went over the full proposal. I gave you a summary. I think Carolyn's handed those out. Before we get into that, just give just a landscape of what's going on in the insurance industry. 24 was not a stellar year for insurance companies. Neither was 23 or 22, but there were 18 named storms in 24, which are hurricanes that got to the point where they had a name. That's high. It's usually 14 is about as high as it gets. 18 was a bad year. That was $68 billion in losses to the insurance companies out of those storms. So couple that with continuing rising costs of reconstruction, values of buildings, material shortages, that type of thing. We're seeing property values increase because of that, and also property rates from the insurance companies because we're seeing considerable losses. The city has performed well. Haven't had any property losses. You guys have done a great job across the board with losses. So your renewal, although it is an increase of a little over 5%, that's the lowest I've seen this year. So you guys are doing a great job. The carrier that we're recommending, EMC, is a carrier that's focused in the Midwest, so they don't get too off in the southeast or the coast where they have exposure to those big storms. so they're able to control rates a little bit better. So enough about the landscape. The city of Willard had in the property, you have a $25.5 million worth of property value. That's replacement cost. Last year it was 23.6, so you'll see there's an 8% increase just in the cost to rebuild your buildings. Rates went up 1.6%, or 1.6 cents, which is a 7% rate increase. And another thing they've put in place to kind of control those rates is a deductible for wind hail damage. So I don't know if you guys are seeing this on your personal businesses, or 1% of the building value for buildings over $1 million. We do have an option, because that gets to be a pretty big number. We do have an option to buy that down. If you want to hedge against that loss, you can buy it down to $25,000 flat. I think it was $8,700 or something in premium if you wanted to do that. It's just an option. Automobiles, you're actually lower in automobiles, but rate was up, so 5 fewer autos, but the rate was up about 20%, which equaled bottom line premium with almost a 5% increase there. General liability, which includes your liability for your public officials. It also includes the law enforcement legal liability, your employment practices liability. All that's up just a little bit just because of the claims that we're seeing in the marketplace, mostly in 2 areas: law enforcement and employment practices liability. The umbrella is a percentage of those liability coverages, including the automobile and the workers' comp employer's liability part. So as those rise, that umbrella will rise as well. So cyber was pretty flat, a 4% increase, but that's not bad for cyber. Workers' comp doing well. Your experience modifier, which gives us an indication of how claims are trending. You're at a 0.8, which means you get to use that multiplier when it comes to your bottom line premium to get a 20% discount. Overall premium went from $222 last year at the beginning of the year. It doesn't take in any considerations that changed between that time and now, but the new renewal premium is $235, which is a 5.76% increase. Like I said, that's in 2024. That's the lowest one I've delivered. So you guys are doing a great job. That's really that's all I have. I don't know if there's any questions I can answer for you.
So a lot of the figures look fairly reasonable, but the 20% change in auto?
Yeah, autos.
Why 20%?
Yeah.
Have we wrecked a lot of cars?
No, you don't. You guys are pretty, I mean, the only losses you've had have been auto, but they haven't been bad ones. But across the country, there's distracted driving has caused an issue. The cost to replace autos has gone up considerably. Just a front end collision on a car, which used to be able to put a new bumper on it, now you've got cameras and sensors and all that stuff, so it's inflated the cost of claims. Plus, what most people don't realize is not only was property damage in all those floods that happened in the southeast, a lot of cars got flooded. So that took a lot of cars off the market, which drives the cost of the remaining cars up. So replacement cost on cars goes up that way too. So there's a lot of things going on in the marketplace that aren't your fault, but you get kind of thrown in with everyone else. Yeah.
May I add something to that, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Our fleet also we have a newer fleet. We've been working toward, through the lease program, to get newer cars because some of our cars were really old and took a lot of maintenance. So that, again, could be the reason for the higher rate for the autos. So
Good question.
that's part of it.
That's it.
Any questions?
Guess so. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you. Take care.
All right. Next item is the title of approvals, West, or Mike, or whoever's gonna talk about Jackson Street, the contract change order.
This one's actually an easy one. So Jackson Street came in under budget, so this is a change order to remove the under budget from the final cost.
It's almost, what, 30,000 less?
Yeah, 31,000 some change, yes. So it I guess they had a few less, speed bumps than they thought, pun
Right.
intended.
We
So-
can add it to some other streets down there.
Yeah, so, we've actually submitted the final payment, it's gone off to MoDOT to be approved, but they'll need this approved change order showing it's zeroed out to kind of clear the books.
Right.
And then we're all done, the project is
We
complete.
need news like that every meeting.
I know, that's not too bad, right?
All right, and resolution, the next section.
That one I will need a motion and approval. Even though
On
it's-
the change order?
Yeah, even though it's a
Procedural
procedural.
wheel on that?
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we accept the change order
Second.
on Jackson Street.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swatash?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
And now, we want to discuss the resolution to declare the official intent of the city of Willard.
So there's been some discussions with Piper about extending our line on certificates of participation to help cover our reimbursement or help reimburse costs associated with the work on Meadows and 94. As we'll talk about in a little bit, some of this work will be contingent on getting the rates figured out. But this will help us kind of pay back some of the eligible costs up to, I think we went with 1.5 million was kind of the, including a contingency.
Comment, the other thing this resolution does is by approving it, when you do enter into the sale of the certificates of participation, you can use part of that revenue to cover expenses in Canada after the date of this resolution. So it lets you go ahead and move the project forward and not wait exactly for the sale of the COPs to have the money to move forward. It's standard in bond financing and COP financing. And this doesn't commit us to borrowing a thing, it's just paving the way when we're ready.
What do we need on that, Wes?
We would need a motion and approval for the mayor to sign the documents. I believe. No, this is a resolution.
This is the first reading.
It's just a resolution, so just one, yeah, it's just a resolution.
So no? You think?
No, you do need a motion and a second, but just one read.
Just one reading.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Villier?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swatash?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now we get the P and Z section. For ordinances, an ordinance accepting the 2025 budget. We have a second read for that.
That's not easy.
Oh, well, when I saw the section, because Mike has been having, about the,
He has had the.
he said about the half page, so I saw, I was like, oh, there's.
It has been a while.
I'm throwing you a curveball, I don't have a single thing for you
Yeah,
today.
we decided to bump him off
And
this.
yet you're wearing a suit and everything, like you're.
We're talking budget.
Trying to
You
use
have
it
your
well,
protractor in your pocket.
I forgot.
Not even a pocket square.
No, you got it.
This,
TI or nothing there, come on.
this will be,
Focus, people, focus.
second read on this. We have added, we did get confirmation from Enterprise Fleet Services. They have located a dump truck. So it is added, however, it likely won't be here for 6 to 8 months into 2025. So it'll be a small additional expense for the 2025 budget. The current dump truck will be kind of retired over to Parks to help them out. So it's a net additional cost of approximately $1,000 to the Public Works Department, June, somewhere from June to August, and then $1,000 lease to Parks from approximately the same time frame. Some costs of the Meadows work have been shifted into 2025. We won't be having any time left in this year to use the budgeted costs that we have this year. So they've just been moved over approximately $600,000 with a matching revenue line. That's the only changes compared to our last discussion. Everything else remains the same and the budget highlights remain the same.
Any other questions or comments from our previous discussion on the 25 budget? No? Somebody want to make a motion? Second reading?
An ordinance adopting the annual budget for the city of Willard, Missouri for the year 2025.
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget for the proposed budget for 2025. I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard?
Yes.
Alderman Hill? Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swattow?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next item cover, the 2024 amended budget.
Again, this will be a second read. No changes on this one. This was a net change of $350,723.26. Non-authorization to engage in any new spending. That's just to give us the authority to make it to the end of the year, basically. Changes we discussed from last time. We had the PlaySet AI system, the agenda system, increased legal costs, addition of the sidewalk, transfer increases between general and parks, cost increases for sewer and water supplies and services, and an expansion on planning.
If there's nothing, yeah, can we do the second read on that?
I just have a question, comment. And I kind of talked to Wes a little bit about it, but our revenues for water and sewer and the expenditure allotment, how long do we survive going this way?
I mean, it's hard to say with a complete accuracy, but I would say if we don't make some serious decisions on rates, 2026 will be a very bad year for the city. And
Liberty Utility back here?
yeah, I mean, if you get into insolvency with a utility, I believe the state comes in and requires you to sell it, and they won't allow the system to just collapse. Having a water and sewer enterprise does allow us to share costs with general operations in certain areas. Public works equipment being, one of those areas. We can share shared expenses between the enterprise and between the general operations. I mean, it's at a point where, decisions of the past are essentially redundant. I know the community's expressed concerns about previous boards doing X, Y, and Z, but all that is moot, because at this point, in this moment, we have to chart a different course and correct those. And as a body, we're elected to be here, and you're elected to be here. You've hired me to be here to avoid those problems that come with not making difficult decisions. So, that's something I do have for the remarks as far as next steps on the rates. But yeah, I mean, if the enterprise funds become insolvent, it's not a pretty outcome. How unpretty is hard to say.
Yeah, and you can talk about that coming up.
Yeah.
All right, can we get the second read on that, Janice?
An ordinance to amend the 2024 budget.
I'll make a motion that we accept the ordinance to amend the 2024 budget.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swattow?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is an ordinance of the city of Willard, Missouri imposing a sales tax for police department purposes. You want that?
This is one we talked about as far as the dates in the official packet being wrong on the second packet, but not on the first read. So you have a different copy on your desk with the correct April 8th election date, and then the due date to the county is December 31st. Nothing else changes, still 0.5%, still earmarked for public safety purposes. And we did hear back from the county. Janice confirmed that the layout is okay. They don't mind if it's ovals, boxes, or lines, so we're good to go on that. And then I think Tom has already been starting to have conversations with folks asking him about it.
It was unintentional.
Unintended.
For haircut. John the barber in Westboro brought it up. And, so I was happy to visit with them about it. They give some positive feedback that gives me a sense that, well, I'll just tell you what they said, if you don't mind.
No, sir, go ahead.
They said, we will support this as long as you can ensure that it will be spent the way you propose that it's spent. I said, well, if you look back over the last 31 years, rather, call out when I didn't do what I said I was gonna do, and I'll listen, but, so anyway, the general sense was supportive.
Well, you know, usually the barber shop knows about things 20 minutes before we do, so. Great source of intel.
Yeah.
All right.
So if there are no questions, this will be a second read, and then we will deliver it to the county by the deadline.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, an ordinance of the city of Willard, Missouri imposing a local sales tax for police department purposes at the rate of 1/2 of 1%, 0.5% pursuant to the authority granted by 94.510 RSMO and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for approval at an election to be held on the 8th day of April 2025.
Make a motion for an ordinance of the city of Willard, Missouri, imposing a local sales tax for police department purposes at the rate of 1/2%, 0.5%, pursuant to the authority granted by 94.510 RSMO, and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for approval at an election to be held on the 8th day of April 2025.
Second. Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Billiard? Yes. Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swatash?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so on your sales tax, this is a general sales tax, however, you are bound by what language the voters approve. And so, it's not, there is a sales tax in the code for law enforcement purposes, but that's only authorized for certain cities. And so, but your general sales tax, you can add percentages to it. So, the language that is put in here means that you will have to designate this 0.5% as it comes in and is set designated for public safety purposes. So it can't just be used for whatever. So,
And is there also a component that will restrict the ability of the city to extract 0.5% out of their budget?
That's the on a code.
you guys, that's just that,
That's
you all to do the right
We're gonna
thing.
decide at some point.
But I mean, it's,
So
so,
I've seen that show game
Yeah, I know.
before where a tax was passed and they got all this money, but then the city just turned around and withdrew
so
the
if,
same amount of money out of their budget.
if you were to go back and look at the statute number, you would see that's a general sales tax. And you'd say, well, that's a general, why do we say law enforcement? That's because this will obligate this to be spent on public safety. So it will be earmarked for that, and that's what it'll have to go to. So if you don't spend it that way, somebody can challenge that down the road. Which is better, I think, for the intended purpose than just stating, and some people just put the ordinance, we're gonna spend it on law enforcement, and it would just say a 0.5% general sales tax. And so in this case, because it does have that in the ballot language, then it will have to be spent that way.
And that would be important to know whenever we start getting phone calls and people ask about it, so that we can reassure people that it's actually written into the ordinance, so.
Yep. And as we move our budget stuff more online, the way people can view it, they can kind of have that accountability as well and make sure it's going in the right place.
All right. Next item. These cover sheet titles are messing me up. An ordinance extending the agreement with Southwest Missouri Engineering LLC doing business as Cochran Engineering.
We've already we've already entered into a general services agreement with Cochrane to do work on our sewer system as needed. We're allowed some extensions for 2-year extension periods in the contract, so just requesting the board approve the extension for a 2-year period. The last agreement was entered into them with Cochrane in December of 2022, which would expire this month, so the next extension period would get us to December of 2026. They're already engaged in certain works for the city to help us with our infrastructure, so I don't know if a change at this time would be warranted.
All right, is this the first reading?
Yes.
Any questions on that or comments?
Okay, an ordinance extending the agreement with Southwest Missouri Engineers LLC doing business as Cochrane for engineering services and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of Willard.
I'll make a motion that we
It's a first reading.
No, we don't need to.
We'll be on the first. Okay, next item, an ordinance establishing a policy to prevent conflicts of interest in property-related matters for members of the Board of Aldermen and the Planning and Zoning Commission.
This policy was drafted just to clearly spell out where a conflict arises due to community concerns about land sales. Of course, board members and appointed members should always recuse themselves from taking direct action on things they can personally and financially benefit from. This is a draft policy. We kind of discussed it a little bit in a previous meeting, and the board had agreed that you would prefer to have a specific policy dictating the actions that will be taken by appointed members and board members in these situations. So if accepted, this will be your first read of this policy. And the ordinance just basically adopts it by reference. So that's how that's written.
Nate can correct me, of course, from one since he was the Juris Doctor. When I was looking at the case law about this, it was talking about not only should the affected elected official not vote, but they should recuse themselves from any discussions. If obviously if they know that's the direction it's going, is that they should excuse themselves from the room and not participate in any discussions, whether it's a vote on something that we have a direct interest with, either on the Planning and Zoning Committee or here.
That'd be the most sure way to avoid, eye contact, maybe shaking heads and things like that. But I don't think they can be forced to leave the room again.
They shouldn't participate. The cleanest way is to remove yourself from the dais and leave so you're not influencing any vote. But sitting here probably isn't a violation, but participating in debate would be a violation because you're still, at that point, even though you're not voting, you're still trying to drive that debate a certain way, and that would be a conflict. But, I don't think they can be forced to leave, but they certainly, truthfully, you can't be forced to not vote, even if you know there's a conflict. You just didn't have the opportunity. There's going to be lots of ramifications from that. So, probably the easiest one would be you all removing that member from the board, and then there might be criminal things that happen if they were to do something illegal. But so you can't physically force them from not participating, even if there's a conflict. And there are some conflicts that perceived conflicts that you just announce and say that don't violate anything. You just think this is a conflict, but I'm just telling you all so you know I'm voting, and people know that. But I mean, certainly if you've got a financial interest, that's a definite conflict.
Are there any other boards that this might impact? Parks Board?
I think it could theoretically impact every board.
Any board,
Every
right?
board, depending on what the scenario is. I mean, because, we can't look into the future and predict exactly what scenarios are going to come down the pipe, but I could see, if it involved the park, say, Board of Adjustments. You can see the Parks Board if they wanted to try to get some land for a new softball field, and if David's brother owned that land, David would have to recuse himself. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but I mean, the Missouri Ethics Commission would kind of govern anyway. We also have a separate policy that governs anyway. So if there's nothing that's specifically covered by this, it's probably already covered anyway. This was just one that was specifically called out for land sales, but we can certainly add
I
park board
just
or
think there ought to be something
boards
that
in the
kind
final
of,
draft.
if we're going as far as putting something together for this, there needs to be something that kind of ties all of our various boards in.
Okay,
I think the ordinance did say
Well,
elected
we
officials,
focus
or
on
did you
planning
specifically
and
say
zoning.
aldermen and P and Z?
yeah.
It just.
I'll just scratch that and make the elected official.
We can do
Elected
that.
officials, yeah.
We just amend-
Well, and not elected official,
Yeah,
board
because-
appointees. I mean, because we elect a lot of
Right.
civilians that are on boards also. So you really could just like be overly general and say,
Board of Adjustments, they're all.
any member of a
just-
board.
Boards and appointed members,
Yeah.
Parks Board.
we'll make that change before the
Yeah.
second read.
Elected and or appointed.
Absolutely. So,
I mean, if we might as well just
make it a big tree.
make it a full umbrella.
Absolutely.
Just first read.
Bigger the better.
Amended one for second read.
All right, go to first read. So we'll change that on the second read, just so everybody knows.
An ordinance of the city of Willard, Missouri, establishing a policy to prevent conflicts of interest in property-related matters for members of the Board of Aldermen and the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
In fact, I think you guys already have another conflict of interest policy, so that covers financial things and things like that.
All right, next section, city administrator remarks.
The board last time had asked about animal control, possible double billing and so forth. Been able to do a little exploration on that. There is a contract with Greene County / Springfield Animal Control. They provide a copy. We pay $40 per pickup, and that's it. We pay other charges that may be customary if the owner hasn't paid them, but there's no double billing. They've assured me of that. What they're going to do, just to help us to keep up better, is they'll submit a bill monthly, even if it's $0, so that we can better understand what's being charged and when. Has the added benefit of if there is a court action that can be considered in the municipal court as a fee. Right now, when we get it a year after it's probably gone through court, it's probably not a lot you can really do at that point. So hopefully that will get us kind of better communication between the two and understand what's going on. But they were adamant there's no double billing on that, and hopefully that's what we will see in practice. Another announcement. Janice, as of this morning, she tendered her resignation. So I wanted to let the board be aware of that change. It's effective January 31. I've already got the position posted. We'll try and get some folks hired in as quickly as, or a folk hired in as quickly as possible, so they can work with Janice and figure out kind of the ways things work. Donna's also on standby to provide additional assistance if the time frame pushes a little bit. And Janice has also offered us down a little bit longer if time frames push on too. We had 17 applications as of me writing these notes, and I've got 14 shortlisted and reached out to for interviews. So hopefully we'll get a smooth transition there to support city operations as a whole. Agenda software, this as I alluded to at the beginning, it's been a little bit bumpy. New things, you have a learning curve on the implementation, so we've learned a lot on this one. We've got some questions out to the vendor as far as better ways to implement and make sure we're doing things in the right way. So we'll figure those things out hopefully in time for the next meeting. And then as this video records today, the plan is we'll get it uploaded, and then this should also connect to the video so that people can kind of, if they go back and they're curious about one little thing, they can go to that bookmark and see the agenda items that go with it, or 6 months down the road they're curious about that one little thing, it's still just as easy to find. Rates. I got some input today as far as what the next steps look like. It sounds like it's kind of 50-50, but the safety bet is to go with a new hearing, new discussion, start from scratch, just to make absolutely sure that we're doing everything in the safest way possible in the long run. So safe bet is to go with a new hearing, which we'll publish as quickly as possible and do a first read on that hearing. Recommendation is probably to do a work study ahead of that, so you guys can review the information with staff. We can talk about it, discuss it. Ultimately, we have some challenges ahead if we don't do something. I've directed staff to plan on a pause for infrastructure work, going ahead with a lot of this infrastructure work that we need to do. just accelerates our insolvency. So we can't do that, obviously. So I really have to express serious concerns at this point about our ability to maintain solvency into 26 if we don't do something soon. So I would encourage the board to approach the rate hearing with a sense of urgency when we get there to come to some consensus. Both the rate models presented will generate revenue. The longer we wait, the longer it's going to take to generate revenue. We need to invest in the system and make the system work into the future, which our citizens expect. So we'll get that published. We'll put it on the bills. We'll do another roadbook poll, get that out, and then hopefully have the rates figured out and numbers ready for the public for February. For the time frame.
So we have to give 30 days notice for that, and then theoretically we had that meeting for that 30 days.
Theoretically, you could do both readings.
And then that was gonna be my question, there would be nothing stopping us from after we had our second public meeting, actually this would be our third or maybe fourth, then we could come reconvene here on a normal meeting night and have a first and second reading, correct?
You could do it the same meeting you have the public hearing.
Yeah.
Just later have the public hearing, close that, and have your first reading, and then do the second reading, and all the same meeting. I do encourage, like I said, to have a work session. So whatever we put forward at that meeting, ordinance-wise, is something you guys are all ready to bite into, and everybody's on the same page, so that's figured out ahead of time. That way the public knows when that ordinance gets sent that's kind of what you're going with. So I wasn't here last meeting, I don't know where you guys are at, but I mean, that just needs to get hammered out. So, or at least the majority of it get hammered out.
So your current projection, I know it's somewhat ambiguous because numbers are not always exact, but if we don't act on this or we don't get something passed, can you paint the landscape of what 2026 may look like?
Well, at some point probably, I don't know, I would assume mid-year we'd be negative. Money going into our reserves goes in far slower than it comes out. So once it's depleted, we can either prop it up with general, which then causes a problem for general operations, or we start to address the questions of cuts, austerity, trying to keep the system alive, with potential sale of the enterprise funds to private company. They then address the question of cost to serve. Bolivar is the most recent close case example we have of what that looks like for the public. And then of course some of the costs that we share with our enterprise funds, staffing, equipment, those all become a general expense only because there's no one to share that with, which then further increases the need for austerity. So I mean, really June might be too generous, it may be early in 26.
So you or Steve may know this, I know Kimberling City's dealing with this very issue at the moment. If a utility is sold to a private entity, are there statutes that dictate how fast or how much they can raise rates?
They become familiar with the same regulatory rules, so they have to have hearings and whatnot.
They have to go to the Public Service Commission, but they could say we need to increase triple rates in the Public Service Commission. If they said yes, they can do it outline it, then they could do it.
And just for the case example of Bolivar, they raised their rates for 3 years. They kept them static as agreed, and then on the completion of the third year, they went up by about 197%.
197%?
Because they put the money into infrastructure, they will put the money in because they can afford to do that.
Then they gotta take it out.
They cost to serve kicks in, and they collect that without regard to location. They don't care if you're in city, out of city, none of that. It's just, this is the cost to serve, this is what you'll pay, and then if the Public Service Commission agrees, then that's what you get charged. So it's definitely better to keep it in our hands.
Anything else on that?
That would be all I'd say there. And then as far as the Water Advisory Board, plan to accept applications through the end of January. I think now we've got enough applications to fill the seats, but we'd like to make sure everybody has an opportunity to apply that might be interested. Plan to put on the back of the next water bill a little plug for applications, and then we'll start doing a couple of social media posts and see if we can get some that way as well, just to make sure the board has a good slate of options to consider for appointments. Then hopefully our first public scheduling will be for February, which might coincide nicely with the new rates. And have a routine schedule thereafter. I think we set it up for.
Have you been thinking about how those individuals would be selected? Because if I recall correctly, no more than 2 from the Meadows area, right?
Yep.
5.
No fewer than 1, no more than 2.
No more than 2. So you started thinking about what that policy will look like, our protocol as far as appointing those individuals?
Well, I mean, I would look at it like any application. I like to see some skill-based, people who know numbers, things like that. So as we get those applications ready for consideration, I'll reach out and try to have conversations with them. Make sure they're still interested, especially the ones submitted early, see what the backgrounds are if they're not clear on the application. And then just consider someone who's going to bring skills to the board. Ultimately, we want those recommendations, we want the extra set of eyes to look over things, and look for opportunities, concerns, be a good public liaison who can maybe reach back out to community, share what they learn, take questions, and kind of act like you guys do, getting that feedback and looking at things through a different lens and providing a good direction.
Does it limit those 2 members to the Meadows, or is it 2 members that are outside of city?
No, it's not to the Meadows, just
Okay.
out of city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it? I just
Yeah.
meant-
Yeah, out of city. So
Outside the city.
really, they're going to represent all the customers. We're making sure that we got some people from outside of the city as well, so they feel represented. But an out of city person could easily talk for somebody in city, just as much as somebody in city could talk for somebody out of the city. It's ultimately meant to represent all of our customers.
The Meadows does not represent anything, not a political subdivision, not a geographical determination of anything. It's a name we have assigned down there. And should be treated the same as any other out-of-city customer.
Yep, all we're doing here is giving them a seat and a voice on an advisory board. Nothing more, nothing less.
I would encourage.
And then just like any other board, any recommendations they make, you have the authority to overrule, support, or tell them to go back for more information. It's just an advisory board position.
I would encourage you to publish notice for a public hearing as soon as you can. Look at the calendar, that would be the 18th, that hit the press for the Commonwealth. 30 days after that, puts you the 18th of January. The following Monday is the 20th. That's not a regular board meeting.
Martin Luther.
So your next regular board meeting after publication goes January 27th, unless you call a special.
I say we call a special and do 30 from today, or from tomorrow.
So
I mean,
just
it's
laying that out
dire.
there that.
Well, it's 30 from when you get it published, so I don't know how.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
from tomorrow.
What'd
I
you
say
say,
we
Nate?
do a special session.
What'd you say?
30 days from the date it gets published in the paper, so.
Yeah, so it publishes on the 18th of December, the 18th of January is your next available.
Right, the Commonwealth will not get it in this week. I could submit it tomorrow, but it would be next
Okay.
Wednesday's newspaper.
That's what I didn't know, that's what it is, so.
Yeah, if you guys want, do whatever you guys want. If you guys want to have a special meeting so we can get this addressed, then I'm all for it.
I mean, it was dire a year ago.
Yep. I think it was dire 5 years ago, maybe.
So
But I mean,
if they
in
had
our
it in on
discussions, it was dire a year ago, that it had to
If
be
they had it
done.
on the
It was-
18th, that put us for this Friday the 7th.
Tragic when we had our budget meetings last year.
Yes,
So
if you guys-
I'd say 30 days from as soon as we can get it published. And if we have to have a special session, we just
So
have to have a special
tomorrow-
session.
Wes and Janice can reach out to us and let us know what the date is.
Yep.
Once it's posted and,
Do we have to have all,
yes, well, when it comes to the vote, everyone's gonna have to be here.
Yeah, if you're going to do a first and a second, everybody will need to be here. Because it takes a majority of the board to pass. It cannot be.
Depending on how the vote goes.
Yeah,
Right.
it can only be
Depending on how the
voted by
vote
the mayor if it's the 3 and the 3.
I mean, the way things have
January
been
18th,
blocked.
I'm on vacation. That's all I'm saying.
Well, so I would
Can I call
find
you?
out what days you got, send out an email before you set your special meeting and find a date everybody can be there, and then set it that day. That's not illegal to find out what days everybody can be there, so.
The only other option for not publishing in the Commonwealth is that daily guide And, I mean, I can get that in there with them this week, and then they would publish it for 30 days in a row.
Well, we'll still
But the
plan on doing a
Commonwealth is more-
robocall, even though they had the weird number thing at the beginning. We did get positive feedback that the robocall was appreciated, so we can commit to the robocall, we can put it on the bills, which will be going out soon, I believe. The bill is the 25th, thereabouts.
Yeah, cause today was.
So-
We'll talk, we'll see, I don't know what the difference is, so we'll talk afterwards, you can tell me.
Yeah, you guys can figure it out tomorrow.
On
let us
that
know.
day, can we be virtual if need be? Because I am booked ready the end of January.
We'll talk, you've gotta have, I'm trying to think of, to be able to vote from a virtual, I'm trying to remember who has to see who. If you have to be able to see everybody, if everybody has to be able to see you, maybe that's just the one.
That's
I
why
think we have to
the
see them.
owl.
And we just have to be able to see you, it has to be, so you'll have to have a camera and. You can attend anyway, but if we can't see you, then you can't vote, so yeah, you'll have to. So we can figure something out, I mean, we've got iPads if we need to send something with
We
somebody.
can get Zoom on here, and I can even add it as a little thing on the video now, so. yeah.
When are you gonna be on, George?
Ideally the 18th through the 31st.
January?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just have to figure it out tomorrow. Figure out what the options are for dates, and then you guys will just have to send something out to all of us to see if we can get a date where we're all gonna be available.
Yeah.
All right.
Last
Throw
thing,
in one thing. If you could publish, publication of general circulation, which you have an alternative to Commonwealth. Let's say you published it on the 13th. 30 days after, that'd be January 13, be your first regular meeting in a month. If you wanna do that, or you could call a special.
Either or, whatever you guys figure out tomorrow.
But
As soon as
people
possible.
need to decide, are you gonna be able to be here or not?
Yeah.
That's what you gotta be able to decide.
With you. You cover new business included in that, Wes?
I'm sorry?
In your remarks, was that also part of new business?
Yeah, I was gonna just kind of reference that, and then just the last little comment I had, I put a draft on your desk as far as a merit policy for review. It's not an action item, just something for you to look at. I have a little bit more tinkering to review, and then I'll get it to Nate for him to kind of supervise over, make sure it's, will pass muster. And then hopefully present in January for discussion. It's, contains a phasing plan. Currently, our evaluation's, not quite sure the formal system, but it doesn't seem overly helpful to the employee or the employer. So proposing to change that a little bit so there's more regular and routine check-ins with the employee, and then more data-based scoring for the employer so we can see how people are doing. And then that would drive a raise eligibility for the employee rather than just giving everybody a flat 2.5% on a good. My hope is this will motivate those who are already motivated, so they feel rewarded and appreciated, and encourage those who maybe could do better to step up and do better next time. But again, just for your consideration at this point, not a vote, not a read, nothing like that, just FYI, here's where we're at so far. And that's all I have.
Anything under unfinished business?
Just real quick, Mayor, I just wanted to update the board. Mile 6 Tap House is coming together nicely. They've expressed interest in a soft opening here in the next couple weeks with, if the health department and the fire department sign off and we get a timetable on the awning, which is supposed to go up on the east side of the building, we'll give them a temporary certificate of occupancy, so they can open up, but they want to be able to be fully open by New Year's Eve. So, just so everybody is aware, they're getting really close. Pretty exciting if you haven't dropped by. It's looking really nice, so.
It's all day we're having, it's gonna be for games.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it.
Anything else for you, Wes?
Nothing with me?
All right. Now we need to recess open session and open closed session.
Look at me automatically. I make a motion that we recess the open session and open the closed session pursuant to RSMO section 610.021 subsection 1 legal.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Hilliard? Yes. Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Keane?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Swatash?
Yes.
And Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Hey, we're getting good at this.
I just have one thing to show you.
Wait,
guys.
let's take the vote first.
Vote?
Close the
Close
session.
the meeting,
I'm
sorry.
just saying, I'm shot at this.
Yeah, I'm going to sleep and I have to show you. She's going to sleep. Okay. Vote.
We got a first and second
To adjourn?
to adjourn.
Yes.
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 Done.
No.